I'm the CTO at Symend. I've spent 25 years in this industry building primarily enterprise and B2B sort of B2B sort of software. So when it came down to us figuring out what our strategy should be at Symend, I knew that I wanted to leverage offshore, nearshore resources as a part of our labor strategy overall. But starting from scratch, from the ground up, was really complicated. I had a small network of people that I could call on, but that network of people didn't necessarily translate to an obvious choice about how to get started or where to get started. And so in contrast, the first relationship or the first conversation that we had, it was clear that you guys had compiled this incredible database of outsourcers around the world and had intimate relationship with many of those different companies and could provide, just sort of real value, both in the startup value and also like the time to selecting a vendor, assessing vendors, et cetera, and also in the risk mitigation part of it. So one of the things that we found in working with you at GTA was that it mitigated some of the risk of that strategy, because if you make a big investment in one place and that doesn't work out for geopolitical reasons that have nothing to do with your business, right? What is your option to then go and go elsewhere? And so risk mitigation and then just time to market was really valuable for us too. It was a pretty seminal time where we knew that the resource demand was going to be higher than we were going to be able to fulfill locally. Arbitrage and offshoring was an obvious strategy for that. And then the question was just, how do we do that in the most effective and efficient way possible? By partnering with you, what we got was we went from, here's a set of criteria that we're looking for in a offshoring partner, which included like technical requirements around the tech stack that we were using or planning to use, and experience requirements in types of software that they built in the past, et cetera. And we went from an infinite number of options down to a very small and elite number of options that were strategically designed to be a sampling of different parts of the world at the same time, right? So we went down to 5 vendors to start with, and those 5 vendors, we said, okay, geography is less important to us to start at this starting stage. And so we got a sampling from Asia and from Latin America and from Europe, all in the same sitting. And my experience was, as being a part of that interview panel and learning, it was an extremely efficient process to go from an infinite aperture down to a small number of companies, and then to clearly be able to go through a very symmetrical, your team led us through a very symmetrical process for talking to and evaluating the skills and the match of those companies. And the result of that was we landed on a couple of really obvious choices from there. And the beauty was, it wasn't even just like we went from 5 to 1, we went from 5 to 2 and we had our choice. And so we then, we're in the cat seat in that we could choose then one of 2 well-qualified partners to start our journey with. And so just the entire efficiency of that would have taken us, I think it would have taken us 6 months to get to that same point had we just done it on our own, and maybe longer, and probably with less quality results from my perspective. And it really was a 2-week process, like from the inception of the conversation down to we've selected a finalist, and so now let's actually get into the process of contracting with that finalist and queuing up onboarding was a 2-week process end to end. And then beyond that, the next stage of the process is, okay, so now we selected some software developers. How do we get them in seat and start getting them contributing to the code base? That also was a very, very truncated and efficient process. I think, overall, it took us 2 weeks from the time that we signed a contract and identified the first group of resources from the offshore partner that we had chosen to the time that we had them integrated into sprint stand-ups in the following, 2 weeks later. And that included an entire truncated sort of 3-day round of Symend doing our own onboarding, which we do for all employees that join to the company. And just overall, like, the experience has been, as I think about the comments that I've heard from my engineering directors, the general gist is they've been extremely happy with the time period in which we can bring up new resources and get them activated, and then the contribution of those resources to our sprint planning and our sprint execution has been just really solid, right in line with what we've been expecting. So the first thing I'd say to any CTO is, if you don't have like a more sophisticated labor strategy than just hire good local talent, then you're not doing yourself justice, right? You have to, it's a global market now. It's a global market for our products. It's a global market for labor. And so we have to recognize that. And I've always subscribed to the idea that you go and you hire talent wherever it is. It doesn't matter what the geography is. The talent is more important than the geography and the time zones associated with that. But then the second part of that is, okay, so assuming all that is true and you're looking for ways to like figure out how to get more dollars, more resource for the dollars that you spend from an engineering perspective, I couldn't strongly recommend enough especially for smaller venture-backed companies, but I think anybody can get value out of it. I spend time at multi-billion-dollar corporations that would have gotten value from having a relationship with somebody like GTA that has the data-backed knowledge of what that global market looks like, and also can bring to bear the experience of where are labor rates going, and what is the trend, and what is good value in a specific market, and what geographies work better for what kinds of problem sets, and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think not having a partner, just if you land on a labor arbitrage strategy that includes offshoring and not having a partner to do it, is the hardest possible way. So you either have to have a lot of time or really deep pockets that way.